Hey there, welcome back to the Path to Zion podcast, where we are rediscovering the ancient way. Thank you so much for tuning in for another video edition episodes of sorts. We're going to do probably a two-part series here, as it is the Passover season again. For those of us who follow the biblical calendar and not the Gregorian calendar, some in large increment and some just in small measure, whatever the case may be, we are in the season of the new year. Not just there's not the biblical new year and then the non-biblical new year. There's really only one. And according to what the word of Elohim says, it is the new year now. It didn't happen back when it was 20 degrees outside and I had a snow-covered lawn. The biblical new year is the month of Abib, and we are here. And if you look out your window, all of creation declares that that is true, that the Creator's creation is signifying new life is coming up out of the ground. It's on our trees. The flowers are blooming. It's beautiful. It's a different type of season, and on Yahweh's calendar, we believe it is the time of the new year. And to signify and commemorate the new year season, we have another invitation to enter into Father's Moedim, his appointed times, his feast days, his cyclical calendar, appointed times for his appointed people. and so we are excited about that again here. What I want to share in this short series is going to be this year's version, topically, of the Passover. I had the privilege of sharing this a couple nights ago with a gathering up in our area that we host every year here. And there were people that don't do the feast, and there are people that have been doing the feast longer than we have. And all of us pooled together in a facility, and we talked about what the theme this year for me was: a night to be observed for Yahweh. Okay, so that's going to be the crux and pinnacle of where we're going to take this discussion. Is this is a night, okay, that is observed and set apart for Yahweh. And so there are many, many things we could talk about when we examine and discuss the Passover account, specifically in Exodus. There are layer upon layer upon layer of topics and metaphors, spiritual examples that we could make all these connections. We could talk about Messiah in the Passover. We could talk about the plagues that came to Egypt and how the whole point of the plagues really was that the Most High, Yahweh, the creator of all things, was making it blatantly clear and obvious. There is none like him. There is only one Elohim seated upon the throne, okay? And amongst all other Elohim, gods, deities, he alone reigns supreme. He made that clear. We could talk about that, because if you took the time, you can go through all of the individual plagues, and each plague was connected to an Egyptian deity. We could do that. That would be fun. That would be fine. We can talk about all these different things: the death angel, the blood on the lintel, all of the things about it. We could talk about many things, and we have on the program and in real life for years. I would encourage you to go back and look at our themes that we've highlighted towards Passover here on the channel for the last several years towards the matter, because again, the considerations are endless. Many things that we can hear about today, I would say, from my opinion, are very just topical and surface level. And a lot of people talk about Jewish tradition and customs, which do exist. I'm not speaking to those things. We, in our household, very generically explained, if you don't know already, we believe that there are Christian, often modern customs, traditions that we have inherited that swing too far over here away from the biblical commands and often don't have any need for them. Especially even the Older Testament. The Old Covenant it's old, and no Christian wants anything to do with anything old. So you swing out here and you have Jesus alone and nothing else. And then you have Judaism. You have endless Jewish customs and traditions that are very, very steeped within Passover, with the Seder plate and all the different goings on of how to commemorate the Passover in Jewish custom. And that swings over here, and often you miss the Messiah. He's not really necessary. We here in our household and in whatever ministry we have just by life, we try to be the middle ground that says, you know what? I'm not saying all traditions and all customs are bad or wrong. I'm just saying many times, especially towards the feast days in Yahweh's Torah commands, the word of the Creator, okay, the word of God, the word of Yahweh is absolutely sufficient to give us guidance, direction, instruction towards what He wants. What does He want from us? What does He desire? What does He command? What does He, word we're okay with here, what does He require of His people? What did He require? What does He now? So these are things we like to talk about, and some of these issues are very topically shallow, doctrinally shallow, I would say. Not bad. It's not bad or worse. This is not going to be one of those discussions today. This will be down a few floors of consideration. Why is that? And then we'll get started. I'm personally convinced that we can learn about all the things I just mentioned and many other things about the Passover event, about the literal original Passover, which again are fascinating. And I love to talk about them. And we are talking about them a lot right now in this season. And equally, if we do not personally see ourselves within these accounts, if we don't, let me put it this way, if we don't make a personal connection with the Passover account and what was going on and why, and covenantally speaking, what was happening in that time and what has been happening as Yahweh's set apart holy people keep the feasts all the way until they were slowly worked out, 2nd, 3rd century of what we know have inherited to be called the church, and why. If we don't understand how we fit, covenantally speaking, in Messiah now, into the Passover account specifically, again, covenantally, I would suggest there's really not much point in us discussing it as merely history if we think all the things that unfolded were for a Jewish people, which we are not. Which again, if we swing out and we're Christian, or if we swing out and we're Jews, we miss the covenantal timeline of the Most High, in my opinion. That's my hope in this short series to talk about, a night to be observed for Yahweh. 3 primary questions that we will ask in this series are going to be these. Number 1, so who is to celebrate Passover? Biblically now, who is supposed to celebrate Passover? Number 2, whose Passover is it? Okay, the second question we will pose, whose possession is Passover? Is it a people? Is it the Creator? Is it the Christian church? Is it a future age? Is it only the nation of the Jews, 2,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago? Is it only those who were delivered from Egypt literally back in the book of Exodus? Whose Passover is it? Okay, is it the Jewish people, bloodline speaking? And number 3, the third question we will ask is, who is Passover to be observed and celebrated for? Is it something for a people group? Is it something for a certain compartment of believers? Is it something that we now, as modern day believers in Messiah, are excluded from because we are in a different covenant now, and so that's not, quote, for us? These are some things we're going to ask. And of course, we're going to start out with running to the word in Deuteronomy chapter 7. We find Yahweh telling His people many things here in this text, okay? He's including endless warnings, not coincidentally, of caution to not go the ways of the nations. Repeatedly, don't go the ways of the nations. Don't go into this land and adopt their ways, their traditions, their holidays, their festivals. Don't do it. He reminds them yet again to what? To cling to His Torah, which we talk about here on the channel all the time. His Torah is merely His instruction, His counsel, okay? His way to live for His people. It's not scary, as I said this to the group the other night. The Torah is not a scary word, and it's surely not a Jewish word. It is simply the Father's instructions and ways. So we read here in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verses 8 through 12. Because Yahweh loved you and kept the oath which he swore to your forefathers, he brought you out by a mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of slavery, from the hand of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Know therefore that Yahweh your Elohim, he is Elohim. He alone is God, as we already referenced just a moment ago. He made it clear there's none beside him. He is Elohim, the faithful Elohim, who keeps his covenant, and he keeps his faithfulness to 1,000 generations. Now, who does he keep his covenant for 1,000 generations to? Okay? For those who love him and for those who keep his commandments. And we know the word is very clear. If you love me, keep my commandments. The Father said it. The Son said it. It is a requirement. We cannot say we love God biblically and not keep his commandments. Keep, as we have talked about over the years here on the program, we have even dedicated series to it. Keep is, we look for the Shamer series on the channel. Shamer is to keep in many cases, not all. We will talk about another today. Shamer is usually, especially when you look into keep the commandments, is simply guard, treasure, preserve, love my commandments, Yahweh said. Those who love my commandments, keep my commandments, love me. They're inseparable, in my opinion, biblically, not according to our opinion or inherited doctrine. So he does these things. He's a promise-keeping, covenant-keeping Most High. So he does this for those who love him and keep his commandments. So therefore, because of this, you shall keep the commandment, statutes, and judgments, which I am commanding you today to do them. Verse 12 ends with his covenantal promises, which are always sure. We're the problem, not him. Then, okay, so if you do this, then it shall come about because you listen. We know listen is often Shema because you can't listen without obeying biblically. So if you listen, hear, adhere to, obey these judgments, and you keep and do them, that Yahweh your Elohim will keep his covenant with you and his faithfulness, which he swore to who? Okay, who did he swear these things to? To your forefathers. And so already here in the early stages of the book of Deuteronomy, we see a looking back at established covenantal principles with a people that preceded them. Okay? This is familial covenantal language here. All the way back in Deuteronomy, there is a reminder from the Creator himself, who owns all of these things as far as commands go. Sourced in him, he says, remember all these promises and everything that I've done because I swore them to your forefathers and I am a faithful Elohim. Okay? Again, this is rock solid, immovable, the covenantal promises of the Father. We, again, are the only issue at hand. We are forgetful people. We walk away. We adopt the ways of the nations. We go pagan, idolatrous ways that we inherited from our forefathers that are not the spiritual forefathers that the Creator continually reminded us to go back to, covenantally speaking, to be within the covenantal promises, okay? In the chapters of Deuteronomy that follow, Yahweh will reiterate his commands regarding the Sabbath day, which we would say is reiterated from creation, okay? The Sabbath day rest that I don't believe anywhere biblically shows was replaced in Messiah when he became our Sabbath rest. The fourth commandment, which is what? Keep this day holy. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Keep it holy. I could repeat that and just repeat myself. Keep it holy, keep it holy, keep it holy. If we do not set apart a single sacred, different, distinct day, which is the word holy in Hebrew, kadosh, a separate, distinct day, what do? We profane the Sabbath. You profane the Sabbath. By making the Sabbath day a kind of spiritual-esque Sabbath rest now, we miss and disobey the fourth commandment, because the fourth commandment is about the Sabbath day. Keep this day holy. And if every day is holy now, which I went through all this 10, 12 years ago about, like, I thought every day was holy. I thought in Messiah, everything is holy now. If that were true, the Sabbath day is no longer by very definition holy. It is common. Every day is common, which again, quickly moving on, is reiterated in this portion of Deuteronomy here. Clean and unclean animals, well, where did they originate? Was this for the Jews? No, of course not. Noah gets off of the ark, and Noah is clearly aware of taking more clean animals onto the ark, and when he gets off of the ark, he's making what? He's making sacrifices to the Creator with clean animals. Why? How did he know that? Where in the world is the Torah and Moses? Not there yet, friend. This is a earlier on example of Father's ways. We of course see the feasts appear yet again, beginning with Passover, reiterated here in the book of Deuteronomy. Our first question, and this will be the lengthier of the three, and so be patient with me, and we'll walk through this together. Who, number one, is to celebrate Passover? This is a big one. This is the crux, really, of the entire matter in the sense of our part. Again, if we do not believe anywhere in us that we as believers today in 2025 are to embrace, observe, memorialize, celebrate the Passover because it is a Jewish custom only, we miss, I believe, the biblical invitation from the Creator to celebrate his Passover. So we're asking the question, well, who is supposed to celebrate the Passover? Let's allow the Word to tell us and not the tradition we have likely been handed. I want to suggest that if we only look to the Bible to tell us, not to popular Christian belief, not back to Judaism, not back to the traditions of the Jews, okay, but only to the Bible, we will find the answer. I personally, over our own journey that we've gone through ourselves here in our house, I've become thoroughly convinced more and more each and every year that the answer of who is to celebrate Passover is summarized as this: covenant people who have been set free from bondage by the Most High, simply put, Yahweh's family. Because without getting into all of this in depth, because this could be a whole subcategory that would take multiple episodes, we have to understand many things that Paul reiterated, as difficult as it is for us to grasp outside of our dispensational doctrines. Paul was constantly saying, look, y'all, you got to get out of this mindset where you're Greeks, you're Jews, you're this sect, you're this group. Stop thinking like that. You've got it all wrong. All of that doesn't matter anymore in the proper spiritual context. Bloodlines, birthrights, like geographical location, no. There was a dispersion by the Creator, the scattering of the tribes all over the earth, and now there is a spiritual heritage for those who will what? Walk in the ways of Abraham, the seed offspring of Abraham that Yeshua talked about even when he's dealing with the non-believing teachers of the law during his day. These do the works Abraham did, a faith man. And how do we know he was a faith man? Because of his works. And when you remove works, the works required by the Creator, because he's a creator and what he says goes, there's no evidence of our faith. Therefore, they cannot be separated. You cannot be a man of faith, literal faith, biblical faith, and not have works that demonstrate that inner place of faith and trust and dependence and obeisance to Yahweh. James wrote a lot about that. We're familiar with that. Moving on, Yahweh's family, I believe, is a generalization answer to who is to celebrate Passover. And so I want us to ask this question because this has to be highlighted, because this is generally where most conversations with Christians today go. If you ask who is to celebrate the Passover, I would say 950 out of 1,000, from my personal experience, would say the Jews. the Passover was for the Jews, okay? So with that, moving into the discussion for the next few minutes, is it remotely possible that mindset, that thinking, that doctrinal understanding in any way could be wrong when we only allow the Bible to answer this question of who is to celebrate the Passover today? Now our household, we've been on a very intriguing journey specifically for the last 20 years. If you don't know already, we were raised pretty normal, Christian, Baptist, evangelical, pretty normal. Went through a lot of flavors after that in our younger adulthood years. And probably 20 years ago now, we decided to unplug from everything we knew and allow the Father to redefine our beliefs. We questioned everything. We questioned structured, organized church, which we were on a staff level involved with, and we said, you know what? This isn't working. I'm not seeing the fruit of what the Bible promises by living within the confines of this religious structure. So we removed ourselves, which was very excruciating, but we did it alongside a lot of other people at the time. And that progressed into this ongoing normal lifestyle of questioning our inherited doctrines. A lot of people are scared by that and say, oh, you're going to lose your belief. You're going to stray and leave the faith. No, in our words, we found it, okay? Now, that 20 years goes on and on and on until maybe 6 years ago now, I believe, I was sitting in my carport on a spring morning, and I was prepared to, with our gathering at the time, I was going to be the one to speak towards Passover. We knew there was this allure and intrigue about the feasts, and it was the Passover season, and I felt compelled, although I had no idea what we were going to do with it. I wanted to do a Passover teaching and a Passover meal with our assembly here. And I did that. And as I did that, I remember as clear as I'm sitting here, I was reading the account of the second Passover, and without getting into all of that, it changed my life forever, okay? Because for the first time in my life, I read the account of the second Passover and all of the events of the people just emptying themselves entirely unto Yahweh. Just the account is incredible. All the lengths they went to just bless the Father and try to return to Him. And for the first time in my life, I looked at the Old Testament, the older covenant, and I saw myself. I said to my wife, I yelled back at her in the house, I said, this is us. This is us right here. This is who we are. And it launched us into a life-changing journey that was already ongoing and continues on today to, as we say here on the program, to rediscover the ancient way. And when we did that, we realized we had inherited, we didn't really even understand or know, we had inherited this understanding that disagreed with what the Bible said regarding Father's feast days, His appointed times, among many other things. We had been told and believed, because we were told by people much smarter than us, educated seminary men, that those are just Jewish customs. They're not, quote, for Christians. They're not for you now. You don't need that. We have Jesus. They just had types and shadows, and that's all they had was just, hollow, empty things compared to what we had that was birthed in Acts chapter 2. We had simply believed what we had been told our entire lives, like most of us do. But as we decided to allow the Bible to redefine our beliefs, we eventually started to really wholeheartedly study the name of the Most High and His feast days, and of course, Passover. We would ask the question, are these feasts, atonement, Feast of Tabernacles, is unleavened bread and Passover, are they really still? Maybe they're in place for Yahweh's people. Maybe they're still in place and we've not known. No one's told us. If we only do what the Bible instructs, we will find that we have been told what was and what is for Yahweh's set-apart family today. We have been taught, mandated really, you must choose. You choose Jewish customs or you choose Christian customs. Passover or Easter. They're not the same. You're over here. You do Easter. Well, we came out of Easter and Christmas, I don't know, 15 years ago, 13 years ago. Well, we realized, biblically speaking, no, we don't need replacement holidays. And it set us free to so many things, which is very offensive, I know. It doesn't have to be, but that's the way it goes. Getting back to our point. There are many scriptures that address our identity concerns as we are here in 2025. For the sake of time, we're only going to touch on a few, beginning with Exodus chapter 12, at the origin of the memorial Passover meal. And it says this, okay, because we want to say, well, I'm not a Jew. I'm not a Jew. Why would I do that? Well, here's a very tiny snippet into one of the many answers. Quote, if a stranger resides with you and celebrates the Passover to Yahweh, all of his males are to be circumcised. Don't be nervous. This is just covenant language. Don't get scared. And then he shall come near to celebrate it, the Passover. Okay? A stranger. He shall be like a native of the land. All right, let's just hit pause for 10 seconds. So the stranger who comes near and follows the covenantal requirements, we could say, just very paraphrased, he shall be like a native of the land. Okay? But no uncircumcised male may eat of it. The same Torah, which is, again, is not scary, the same instruction shall apply to the native, okay, the Jew, the bloodline individual. This same Torah shall apply to the native as to the stranger who resides among you. So I'm bringing in some inclusion to this, and we're going to highlight that more in a few moments. We want to categorize and compartmentalize who does and who does not. Well, they don't because they're not those people. And those people do because that was just a custom specific to them, and that's not for this group over here. Doing that discombobulates everything with the word of Elohim. We have to follow the covenantal language throughout the whole thing and stop breaking it up into pieces, or we'll just get lost. And most importantly, we will lose the covenantal extension of the Father, the invitation to remember his ways. So we've been told, most of us, I would assume, that the Hebrews, the temple period people, only had empty and hollow rituals like sacrifices and offerings, burnt offerings, all these things they had to do under the burdensome law. Friend, if you stop and you only read your Bible and you wash your mind out of that kind of verbiage, you will see the biblical pattern is clear. Father has always wanted a people whose hearts are towards him. So let's look at Hezekiah. Let's look back for 10 seconds about the second Passover account. These people brought thousands and thousands and thousands of animals to be sacrificed at the temple. Why? They emptied their entire lives to present as an offering of thanksgiving to the Creator. Why? There was this revelation, and we can go back to other accounts with the kings of when the Torah scrolls were found. I mean, this happened all the time. Good king, bad king, good king, 4 bad kings. And like the temple would be just desolate, and it would be just run amok with idolatry and prostitution and all these things, right? Even the elements of the interior of it would be like put away, lost, forgotten. There's this here we are, the pattern. There's a king that comes up. He's an Elohim, God-fearing man, and he restores the priestly order and all these different things. And what do people do? They say, "We never knew who we are. I didn't know I was Yahweh's chosen people. Let me show him a heart of thanksgiving." And so they bring animals and they bring animals and they give and they give and they give and they give. Why? At the revelation of who they are and who they are to be living for, who is the perfect Creator who gave them an instruction to live according to. They loved it. And now real quick, we spoke on this recently about the people in Acts. That what? They heard, okay, this is the Jerusalem Council. Same thing. This is why I love the word if we give it time. The Jerusalem Council takes aside the new converts, new believers, we could say, who are, of course, ignorant of the way to walk. They're looking for direction. They tell them to start in the Torah commands. Don't abstain from things strangled, abstain from blood, things sacrificed to idols. You write these things. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. What did they say, friend? You can't put me under the bondage of the law. I'm free in Jesus. No, friend. They said, paraphrase, thank you. Thank you for telling us how to live. They rejoice. Hallelujah, Yahweh, hallelujah. Praise be to the Most High. We will do what you tell us to do. Thank you so much. Same thing. A heart of thanksgiving that was responded to with joy and appreciation and thankfulness for all that the Father had done. So we have to be careful. We're not saying that Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Noah and Moses, prophets Isaiah, Nehemiah, King Hezekiah, David, that these men were just hollow works men. They didn't know what we know today. That's silliness. Of course not. We should long to be found, friend, as righteous as these men who went before us. All right, we're getting close to wrapping up part 1 here. The commands for Yahweh's set-apart people to keep the Passover are everywhere. Deuteronomy chapter 16, we see this Hebrew word appear. It is keep, but it's not shamer in this case. It is asah. It's a totally different type of keep here, which appears in the Older Testament. It's very common. It's over 2,600 times in Hebrew in the Older Testament. It says, observe the month of Abib, celebrate or keep, okay, asah, the Passover to Yahweh your Elohim, for in the month of Abib, Yahweh your Elohim brought you out of Egypt by night. So celebrate, keep here is asah, and this is why I'm bringing this up, not for a Hebrew lesson. It simply means to do. Okay, that's not complicated. We don't have to be Hebrew scholars here. We can simply read the word and study. Do the Passover. Okay, that is the instruction. So this is extremely simple, even from Hebrew to English. Do the Passover, friend. Remember the Passover, just like Sabbath day, friend. It's the only command of the 10 that Yahweh said, remember the Sabbath. Please remember the Sabbath. Why did he say that? Because you're going to forget, friend. You're a forgetful people. You forgetful people. I try to say that to myself, to my family, to anyone who would listen. Let's just all acknowledge human history. Biblical record is overflowing with endless examples, sadly, of how forgetful we are. So when Yahweh says, don't forget the Sabbath, remember the Sabbath, we should do that. Do the Passover, a memorial or a remembrance. This is a biblical requirement. Do the Passover. We could continue. I have paragraphs on this also. We know that this goes into the New Testament as well, the newer covenant period. Paul talks about it all the time, the celebrating of the feast after Messiah had come, died, and resurrected and ascended. 10 years or more later, and going on even further than that, if we follow, I would believe, eschatology and different things like that. Paul recorded the exact words, therefore let us keep the feast in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. He's talking about unleavened bread. He talks about Passover, Pentecost, of course. In the book of Acts, we talk about Acts 2 all the time, the Christian church has. Well, what was Acts chapter 2? Pentecost. Well, it was simply the well-established ancient feast time, Shavuot. That's all it was. I don't mean all in like a trivial sense, but like they were already gathering in one accord to celebrate the ancient festival of Yahweh, Shavuot. That's not coincidentally when Yahweh chose to pour out his Spirit, as we are more familiar with. Something I want to highlight and encourage us to look into later without getting into it in Acts chapter 12, something that I have referenced as being a new kind of persecution seems to be coming to Father set-apart people. Though those I say are more of what Paul was promoting we need to be, this peculiar people. The Nazarene would be one way to explain it if you understand that, I believe, correctly. Those who follow Torah and Messiah, okay? Because that's how Messiah became Messiah, was by obeying the Torah of his father. It's a pretty good pattern, in my opinion. Acts chapter 12, 2 and 3 says, King Herod killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. And because he saw that it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to seize Peter also. It was during the days of unleavened bread. So when he had arrested him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 squads of soldiers to keep him, intending to bring him before the people after Passover. Now, friends, this is Acts chapter 12, okay? Acts chapter 12, unleavened bread's ongoing, Passover's ongoing, but there becomes this little bit of a rift here where, and if you've studied church history, you know there was this eradication of the ancient way that was like right on the heels of this, okay? Changes are coming where we are taking out the memorial feast. We're taking out the people who want to cling to, follow Messiah, and walk in the ancient covenantal way of the Torah. We're making a divide where you're going to choose one or the other, which the Catholic Church, of course, came in, harnessed to perfection, and have rode all the way into our modern belief system today that covers all of evangelical Christianity, sourced in, rooted in those early on Catholic state church, where the church, we have Jesus, we don't need Passover, they called it Jewish stuff, which fit perfectly and remains today, that belief system, the errant belief system. Now you're going to do Easter, because we are saying, even though the Bible doesn't talk about Easter, even though there's no biblical command to do anything to do with the resurrection at all, and there's no biblical mandate to worship on the Lord's Day on Sunday, we're instituting a new way to live, friend. And you either do that and stop doing Passover and the feast days of the Bible, or you'll be persecuted. And this, I believe, launched into that, especially 3rd century on, the eradication of the ancient way. There was a new way now, and the state church told everybody how to do it, and sadly, that has become mainline doctrine for Christian evangelicals who say they hate the Catholic Church. It's a very deep pool to discuss. The latest series we talked about, an absolute conclusion right here. The Most High remembers His covenant. We just concluded that 2 weeks ago. In those videos, I highlighted dozens of covenant verses in the Word to present how important covenant is to Yahweh. We had to get that through our heads. This is important to Him. We should probably make it important ourselves, to us. One text I found in the writings of the prophet Micah, which I felt was very worth highlighting here today as well, says this: Who is an Elohim like you, pardoning iniquity, overlooking transgressions? Now, who does He do this for? Who does Yahweh pardon iniquity and overlook transgressions for? For the remnant of His heritage. He will not retain His anger forever. He delights in mercy. He will again have compassion on us. He will subdue our iniquities, and you will cast all of our sins into the depths of the sea. Verse 20, you will extend truth to Jacob, mercy to Abraham, that you swore to our ancestors from the days of old. Micah chapter 7, 18 through 20. We could spend hours talking about things like this, about this constant looking back, even way back, friend, thousands of years ago. Yahweh, through the prophets, were saying what? Go back to the old ways. Search out the old paths, and when you find them, friend, walk in them. And what? There, you will find rest for your souls, not burdensome law. Not burdensome law that the Creator gave man that they could never keep, so Jesus had to come? No, sir. That disagrees with the Deuteronomy statements that this is not too much for you, friend, the commands of Yahweh. He said that. These are not burdensome. It's repeated in the New Testament as well. That's not too burdensome for us. It is good. It's the Father's perfect ways, including Passover. So we've begun to establish a little bit who is to celebrate, keep, and do Passover. Next up, we're going to talk about whose Passover is it, though? Whose Passover is it? Does the Bible ever say that it's a possession only for the Jews? Is it the feast of the Jews like some poor translations say it is? I'm going to leave that for the next episode. Is it a Jewish custom and tradition alone that is biblically designated to only be for them? This will lead us to answer our next question, which is whose Passover is it? And number 3, which is who is Passover to be observed and celebrated for? Both of those will be in part 2, which will be shorter to this entire part 1. We are talking about what? Passover. And we will get to this part because this is the highlight that we want to make. This isn't about us necessarily. It is an invitation to walk in Father's ways. Yes. It's an invitation to his banquet table to sit and have a meal with him. Yes. But this is a night to be observed for Yahweh. You're listening to and watching the Path to Zion podcast. We are rediscovering the ancient way. Thank you so much for watching. Go to pathtozion.com. Find us on Facebook. Send us a message. Path to Zion podcast at gmail.com is the way to communicate. Thank you so much for watching. Amen.